What if the only thing that's standing between you and $500,000 in funding isn't years of screen time, but one single entry model? This is not a hypothetical question. One of my students, Sil, who I've been mentoring, just sent me that he crossed over $500,000 in funding, starting from scratch. He went from zero to one of the most successful traders I've ever seen. Out of immense gratitude, he gave me the permission to share this exact entry model with you for free right here. I'm going to give you his complete checklist, the exact things he's looking for in the market every single day to extract thousands out of the market. To do that, we're going over his exact entry model, and he's going to explain exactly where he looked for and actually applying it on a live chart. This is the most special videos I've ever shared with you, so make sure you stick to the end. No time to waste, let's get into it.
Okay, just before we get into it, I'm going to talk about the framework and the checklist that I use before I look at any trades. Number one is the higher time frame bias, the daily and the 4 hour. The daily structure must show bullish intent. Last daily candle closes bullish or there's a sweep of a daily low. 4 hour candle aligns with bullish bias, a recent 4 hour close to support long, and the market is not consolidating. Number two, liquidity sweep. A recent low has been swept. Stop run is very visible. Sweep takes liquidity below prior swing low, not just noise, and the sweep leaves a strong rejection wick. Number three, structure shift, the confirmation. After the sweep, 4 hour prints a bullish close, reclaiming structure. The bullish close is very strong. Market shows no immediate bearish continuation after the sweep. And number four, which is the execution. Usually I'll enter after the next 4 hour candle closes bullish after the sweep has happened. Stop loss is usually placed below the wick that performs the sweep or below the candle that closes bullish. The target is normally a draw on liquidity, old highs, clean levels. And finally, when not to trade. When there's no valid sweep. 4 hour fails to close bullish or the daily closes bearish below sweep zones. And also during any major high impact news.
If you want to become profitable as soon as possible, you need to join the thousands of others in the school group, Market Masters. If you go to the classroom in the school group, there's a 5-day getting profitable challenge to make sure you complete that. And after that, there's not only a 5-day challenge, but a complete roadmap course with a step-by-step program on how to become profitable. From the trading pyramid, psychology trade plan, getting funded, entry model, everything is there. And this is not all. Live trading every single week. And on top of that, there's also a Discord. And inside this Discord, there are many other traders crushing it. I share my insights every single day, from outlooks to trade ideas to concepts, so make sure you check it out as well. I will leave the link to that in the description. And now let's get back to the video.
So what I'm going to do is show you basically how I identify setups using my model and what makes me press the button, what exactly I'm looking for. So on the chart here, we have the German 40, the DAX, and we're looking at the weekly time frame. So basically what I start is by looking at the weekly or the daily, depending on where the sweep happened. In this situation we had where the current weekly candle swept the previous low. So from here I mark it up, then I drop down to the daily, then I start looking at how this sweep happened and what was the reaction after the sweep. So you can see we swept the low here and there was a nice rejection. From here I drop down to the 4 hour, and this is basically where my setup happens, and this is where my execution happens as well on the 4 hour time frame. Everything happens on the higher time frame. So what I'm looking at is what the reaction was after the sweep. As you can see, we had this nice rejection here, and then from here I'm waiting for the next 4 hour candle to form. That 4 hour candle is what I like to call my MMBL signal candle here. So from here I am looking to see how this candle closes. If the candle closes bearish, then this trade is no longer valid, but if it closes bullish, and this is where I start hunting for my entries. So in this situation we had a bullish close here, so from here I would then be looking to enter a trade, a long position from this candle close, targeting a high. So I normally like to risk 1%. For example, it will be, stop loss will be just around here, and my target could be either this high here for 1 to 2, or you could go for 1 to 3 here, or 1 to 4, depending on your risk tolerance. Okay, so that's just a simple example of how I look for my entries. Okay, so again, on the high time frame, I look for a liquidity sweep. On a higher time frame, could be the daily, could be the weekly, but it has to be a high time frame liquidity sweep, nothing lower than that. Then from there down to the 4 hour, where I wait to see how the candidate performs the sweep reacts. Normally a nice rejection like this indicates the price wants to reverse, but then I also wait for the next 4 hour candle to form and see if that closes bullish or bearish. Like again, if it closes bearish, the setup is no longer valid. But if it closes bullish in this situation, then I start looking for my trades. I wait for it to finish, and then after that, I then take my entry, stop loss below the candle, a target in a 1 to 2, 1 to 3, or 1 to 4. Basically, I like to go from liquidity to liquidity. So if liquidity is in swept here, I like to target the next liquidity zone, which in this case is up. I have got another example here on the US 30. Again, on the high time frame, I'm looking to see how we swept the previous candle. So in this situation here, nice sweep here, and also a rejection. We swept this low and also all these lows to the left. Then I'm dropping down to the 4-hour to see how we react from there. We had a nice rejection. After this rejection, I'm still being patient. I'm not going in yet. I'm waiting to see how the next 4-hour candle forms and how it closes. Does it close bullish? Does it close bearish? Stronger bullish close obviously is a high confirmation for me, but in this situation we had a rejection here, but it still closed bullish, so that is still good for me. So what I start to do here is I would wait for that candle to finish and then start hunting for my entries again. Same detail, just below the candle here, risking 1% or whatever your risk tolerance is, and then I'm targeting a high. So in this case here for a nice 1 to 4. So same detail. So this is basically exactly what I look for in all my trades using the exact same model. I'm waiting for a high time frame liquidity sweep, daily or weekly. Then I drop down to the 4-hour, wait for a nice rejection, then wait for the next candle to form, see if that forms bullish or bearish. If it's bullish, that gives me kind of confirmation. Then I take a nice entry targeting a draw on liquidity. This is just a short, simple explanation of how the model works.
I give the microphone to Mr. Funding, Mr. 500K Funding. Followed everything I told him, like to the T. Like, I'm gonna create my own model, and I was like, let's do it. And it's insane, and I love it, and people love it. So many DMs from people wanting to hear this model. So here it is. Still, take it away.
Thank you very much, Dion. That was very, very generous of you for the intro. So today is more of like a continuation of the previous explanation, and obviously then I'll dive onto the chart as well to show some explanations of trades that I took, why I took them. So one of the first thing I'm going to do is obviously talk about the model itself. Like Dion was explaining, obviously I started my trading with Dion. He taught me ICT concepts, which I really, really loved. And I started using that in the early stages of my trading journey. But I just wanted more. I just wanted to do something more, something that was more personal to me, to the way that I trade and what suits me as a person and my personality. Because remember, trading is all about personality as well. So I decided to come up with a model for myself, which means I don't have to sit on the chart all the time. So I basically created this model on a high time frame. It's basically a high time frame model. Some of the stuff basically checklist that I go through before I even take any trade, just by staring at the chart, is number one, there has to be a high time frame bias. I'm mostly into buys. I rarely take sells unless, of course, it's very, very obvious. But in most cases, when the market is selling off, I just sit on my hands and I wait for a buy structure to form. That buy structure has to be on the daily 4-hour minimum, because that's where my execution is. Weekly, I don't really go onto the monthly, except obviously in exceptional circumstances, more weekly, daily. I mostly look for it on the daily when I'm trading during the week, and obviously at the start of the week, then I look at the weekly candle to see how we perform in there, or sometimes in the middle of the week as well. So there has to be so number one, there has to be a higher time frame bias. The daily structure must show bullish intent, and the 4-hour has to align with that bullish intent as well. Sometimes I take trades even when the previous daily candle is not bullish. And I'll explain why. So I basically have two setups. The first one is what I call my first setup, which is the 5.0, and that has to be where the previous candle is bullish, previous daily candle is bullish, and the second one is my 5.0A, which the previous candle doesn't have to be bullish. As long as the 4-hour is bullish and there's a confirmed sweep on it, then I can take a trade. The next one is there has to be a liquidity sweep, either on the daily, weekly, or at least the 4-hour. If we have a bullish move and the previous 4-hour candle does not get swept, and I sit on my hands and I don't take the trade. Obviously, there has to be a confirmed structure shift after the sweep, which means either the 4-hour candle that does the sweep closes bullish, or the next candle closes bullish. Obviously, my execution is on the 4-hour. And again, when I don't take a trade, finally, is if obviously those setups don't align. No previous bullish daily candle, no previous 4-hour candle, or the candle that performs the sweep fails to close bullish, then again, I sit on my hands. Without further ado, I'll just dive onto the chart. So yesterday on the Discord, I posted what I was looking at on US 30 DAX as well. Also Nasdaq I looked at, and also CAD JPY. So if we start with US 30, so obviously the previous daily candle last week, we could see that we had this huge sell-off here, which was on Friday. So naturally, I was just waiting to see how we opened the next on Monday. So coming to Monday, so obviously this candle here, bearish candle here, basically swept all this lows here, all the way down to here, which is good for me, which means we've taken a lot of liquidity and there could possibly be a reversal going forward. So if we then drop down to the 4 hour, this is exactly what I was looking at. So I started off by looking at this rejection candle here, which is great. But that was on Friday. And then over the weekend, obviously Saturday and Sunday, we had the market open quite bullish. But for me, even though the market opened bullish, there was no initial sweep. So in this situation, I would just wait and sit on my hands. Obviously, that was Sunday night anyway. But come Monday morning, in the early hours of Monday morning, we had this bullish candle. And then this 4 hour candle here came down and swept liquidity. So that was my first confirmation. So remember, I was saying, even though the previous daily candle is not bullish, normally this one has to be bullish for me to start looking for trades. But I have a different or more aggressive version where even if the previous candle is not bullish, I can start hunting for trades if there's a confirmation that we're moving upwards. And this previous three candles here gave me that confirmation. So what I was just waiting for was a sweep. We had a nice sweep here, and then as per my model, the candle that performs the sweep has to close bullish, which happened here. So once I saw this bullish close, I then start looking for my entry. If this candle had failed to close bullish, then I would have to not take the trade and wait for another setup. So in this situation, what I did, I think I also posted this in the Discord, is after the sweep, I then took my entry from here. Normally, like I said, I try to risk 1%, but depending on how the wick of this candle, this one here, my confirmation candle, I would then think of what my risk to reward would be. So in this situation, I believe I went 1.5. 1 second, I went here, and my stop loss was just 1.5 is what I did. And I was targeting this highs here, but I actually went all the way up to a 3.5, I believe, up to 4. So yeah, so this was the actual trade I took. So again, we had a sweep here, bullish close, and obviously I went in, giving it the US 30. I think I also posted it on the Discord. With US 30, I tried to allow more room between 1.5 to 2% because of the volatility of it. With DAX, in most cases, I stick to 1%. But in this case, this is what I did, and obviously the trade went all the way to here. So obviously, draw liquidity, there's various ones. You can target this high here, you can target this high, or you can go all the way here again. So you have the option to either continue the trade or take profit where it suits you. That is the example for US 30. So I will then go on to my next example, which is the DAX. Again, I said the DAX and the US 30 had a similar setup. So with the DAX, again, same detail, look at the previous day, see what happened there, and then go on to the 4 hour again. We had this open and, a couple of bullish candles. Again, I was just waiting because it wasn't any sweep. So I actually put on there, say once the sweep happened, this then becomes what I call my MMBL signal candle. So I'm waiting for this to close. So once this closes, that gives me confirmation, and then I take the trade again. Again, once this happened, trade entry from here. Okay, targeting a 1-2, targeting this high here. And this one was quite good because it was the risk wasn't that much. It was a nice 1-3, which again I posted in the Discord. So yeah, so this was a trade. But then again, with this, because the drawn liquidity is all the way up here for me, I'm looking for us to go all the way to this high here. What I then do is, even after this trade happens, I then start looking for other entries. So basically, how the model works for me is, if we're having a strong bullish momentum, I just basically wait, and every time we have a sweep and a confirmation, I then take another entry. So for example, after this first one happened, we then had another liquidity sweep here with this candle. I'll just annotate this. So we then had another liquidity sweep here with this candle. As you can see, swept the previous low, which is this one here. And after that, I'm waiting for another bullish close. So obviously this candle didn't really close bullish. I wouldn't take that as a confirmation. This one here didn't really close bullish. But then again, we had another sweep here with this one, swept this previous low, and then obviously this candle here closed bullish. This was a second entry for me, just like that. obviously to keep going to either this high, because I get this high here, or this high here, or all the way to the top. But unfortunately, this one was a -1. So as you can see, it was, nice into profit. I was up over 100 points. Obviously, then later we then had this, bearish momentum here, and obviously I got stopped out. So based on this price action here, now I'm going to wait. I'm now not going to hunt for any trades because I have a max of 2 trades. So I've taken one trade, which is a win, and I've taken another one, which is a loss. So now what I will do is actually wait, sit on my hands, and see how the next day candle forms. As you can see on this one here, if I remove this, took this high and massive rejection. So in this situation, I'm waiting to see what happens the next day. So that's an example of how I just basically ride the momentum up. Unfortunately, it didn't follow through this time. It's followed through in other situations, but in this case, it didn't follow through. And as you can see, basically we're consolidating here on the 4 hour. So I'm just going to leave this alone for now. Nasdaq, same detail, but Nasdaq again. Again, we swept liquidity. Then I waited again for one of these lows to be swept, and as you can see here, it was a tiny one here. Not much of a confirmation, hence the reason why I didn't take the Nasdaq trade. If the wick had come down and completely swept this, then I would have probably taken this, but it wasn't really convincing for me, so I sat on my hands on this one, unfortunately. But it was, as you can see, a good trade, and it went up and took this high here, or this even all the way up here. Didn't get to this one, but a nice 1 to 3, 1 to 3.5, this would have been. Finally, I'll talk about CAT JPY. Again, I posted this. So CAT JPY had the same structure. The reason why I didn't take CAT JPY, and I posted this in the Discord as well, is because there was no liquidity sweep on the 4 hour, as you can see. So no sweep. This candle here didn't sweep this one, and this one here obviously swept, but went all the way down. So if say I'd taken this trade here, that would have been a loss. But based on my rules, if there's no sweep, I'm not going to take the trade. And you can see why, because we didn't sweep the previous low. This candle just came all the way back down. And again, another structure is forming, but I'm still waiting to see more before I take any trade. So far this week for me, I had a +4 on US 30, +3.5, something like that, or 3 on the DAX, and obviously a -1 on the DAX as well. And now I'm just going to sit on my hands and see what happens for the rest of the week. And if I see more structure in the pairs that I trade, which is mainly CAD, JPY, NASDAQ, DAX, and US 30, then I'll look to go in again. That is just an explanation of the model and how I search for trades and how I look for it. And any questions? Thank you.
First question is, do you look at extra confluences, like buying only in a discount area or 4-hour daily range?
So, like I said, for me, it's more of a liquidity to liquidity. So if say, for example, the market is ranging and we have a liquidity, then I don't go into that. I just leave it alone. But there has to be a clear run on liquidity. Also, a strong rejection as well. If I have a liquidity sweep, but the rejection is not that strong, then I leave it alone as well. So these are the things that I look at, which is why I don't get that many trades. I only get maybe 1 or 2 trades per week in most cases, and sometimes not at all. But yes, so there has to be a nice rejection after this sweep. And if there's a consolidation, say with a daily consolidation or 4-hour consolidation, then I just sit on my hands. I don't really use premium and discount, to be honest with you. For me, it's just pure liquidity. I've simplified it as much as I can, and it just has to be a liquidity sweep. That's what I look for. No, I don't use kill zones either. So in regards to win rate, it's more between dependent. So I've got 2 actual models. Like I said, I've got the more aggressive one and I've got the more conservative one. It's normally between 50 to 60. And obviously I target 1 to 3. So that's really good for me. Yeah, I can see one more question. I'll answer that one. So basically, as I explained in the beginning, for me, obviously I started trading ICT and it really worked well for me. But ICT obviously uses more of the lower time frame, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, which I did. But due to time constraint on my part and due to my personality, looking at the 1 minute chart was a bit too much for me. So I wanted something more calm, something that aligned with my personality. So I decided to come up with a more higher time frame model. So based on a lot of research, and I like the concept of liquidity, so I just basically use that to create this model. 1, so I don't sit on the chart all the time, and 2, so I can easily automate it. I know with the 1 minute and the 5 minutes, you can automate it, but it takes a lot of work. But with the higher time frame model, it's a lot more easier to automate because you're only looking for trades every 4 hours, basically. Pearl, I said I created basically the code that I created on CTrader for it to send me alert to my Telegram every time there's a sweep. So yeah, so basically this model that I showed, even though I trade it manually sometimes, is actually a fully automated process. In most cases, I don't even get involved in the trade at all. It just automatically looks for the setup, automatically takes the trade, stop loss, TP, and it just sends me a lot on my Telegram to let me know how the trade is performing. And sometimes if I have other accounts where I can't automate it, then I just take it manually on there. But it's a fully automated process, obviously based on research. And after I was happy with the model, is when I then decided to automate it to make it a lot more easier for myself.
Cool, cool, cool. Awesome. And yeah, thanks again, Sil. And now let's dive into the live price section.